Example number 2, it says solve by completing the square, answer to the nearest tenth. So we're going to start by bringing everything to the left side because it has to be in standard form. So it's going to become positive 12x, positive 23 or plus 23 equals 0. You're going to put brackets around your x values, and then you're going to factor if there was a value in front of x squared, but in this case there isn't. So then you're going to take half this number, 12, which is 6. Half of 12 is 6, and then when you square the number, you get 36. So that's the number you're always going to have to add and subtract right after that 12x. So you're going to have positive 36 minus 36. Plus 23 still is there, but outside the brackets. Then you're going to bring that minus 36 out, but because there's no a value, you can just bring it out and not have to worry about anything. So it's going to become minus 36 outside the brackets plus 23 equals 0. You're going to have to combine these to get your q value, and you're going to have to do factoring to get your p value. So it's going to be x squared, or actually x, you're always going to take half this number as a little trick, which will be plus 6. That is your p value. So minus 6 is your real p value, and then squared, and then you're going to have minus 36 plus 23, which is minus 13, and that's equal to 0. Now we're going to have to square root both sides. Oh, actually, before we do that, we do have to move that q over to the other side. So that's going to be x plus 6 squared equals positive 13. Then we're going to have to square root both sides. And whenever we square root, we're going to have to remember that you have to do plus minus square root of 13. That's not a nice value, so we'll leave it as it is right now without going to our calculator. And then we're going to subtract 6 on both sides to get x by itself. So in our calculator, we're going to have to put positive square root of 13 minus 6, and we'll get minus 2.4. And then we're going to have to do minus square root of 13 minus 6, which is negative 9.6. So those are our two solutions for x. The next one's similar. So just like the previous case, we're going to have to move everything over until we have 0 on one of the sides. And then we're going to have to put brackets around our p values. You're going to have to take half this number and square it because there's no value in front of p squared. So it's going to be p squared minus 4p, and then half of that and squared would be plus 4 minus 4. Then you're going to bring this minus 11 over. You'll see that you can start to do all these kind of steps to simplify your work. We know that eventually we're going to have to move it over, just like in the previous example here, we had to move it over. So if you want to do that now, you could. So this is a possibility, or you could have done what I did above. So we're going to have plus 4. Now this guy is going to have to move over as well, right? So we're going to put the equal sign, and then when we move that negative 4 out, normally we would have negative 4, but because we're crossing the equal sign to bring it over, we're going to have plus 4 and plus 11, because the signs will switch when you go across the equal sign. That gives me p squared minus 4p plus 4, which is equal to positive 15. Next, we're going to factor this so we can get our x minus p squared form. So it'll be p minus 2, because it's half of that middle value, squared equals 15. Now we're going to square root both sides to start getting p by itself. So that's going to give me p minus 2 equals positive negative square root of 15. And then we're going to have to add 2 on both sides. So that means p could equal positive square root of 15 plus 2, or p could equal negative square root of 15 plus 2. So this one's not telling us to round to the nearest tenth or hundredth, so we can leave our answer like that, especially when they say the exact answer. So if they want exact answers, we would just have to simplify these radicals if we could, but in this case we don't have to, because square root of 15 can't be simplified any further. So those would be your final solutions. Example number 3, the sum of the squares of 3 negative consecutive integers. So the key words are we want negative consecutive integers. So we want 3 of them. So we're going to have x. The next integer would be x plus 1. That would be consecutive. And then x plus 2 would be the third consecutive integer. So this would be the first one. This would be your second. And this would be your third. What they want you to do with all of these is they want you to take the square of each of these, and then sum them, meaning add them. So you're going to take x squared plus, that's sum, x plus 1, the next one, square it, and add it with x plus 2 squared. The answer is 77. So what we're going to do with the x plus 1 and the x plus 2, we're going to do FOIL. Okay, so there's FOIL for you. Then we're going to combine all the like terms. All the x squareds together will become 3x squared. And then all your x's, if you add up all these guys, it becomes positive 6x. And all your constants, if you add those up, that'll be plus 5. But you're going to have to bring that 77 over by subtracting 77. And that equals 0. So you're going to get 3x squared plus 6x minus 72 equals 0, which now we're going to complete the square. We're going to put brackets around your first two terms. Now we're going to divide both of them by 3 to give us that a value in front. So this is slightly different than the previous examples. So we have to divide out the a value, leaving us with x squared plus 2x, leaving space because we're going to have to take half the number and then square it. So that's going to be half of that is 1, and if you square 1, you get also 1. Positive 1 minus 1. Minus 72 equals 0. Move it over here. So now we have 3. We're going to have to bring that negative 1 outside by multiplying by 3. So we'll also factor this in one step just to kind of save us some space, but we're going to have x, and then 2, if you take half of that number, you get positive 1 squared. The negative 1 that we're removing and multiplying by 3 to get outside of the bracket is going to be negative 3 minus 72 equals 0. So our vertex form is this, minus 75 equals 0. So that's vertex form. Now we're going to start bringing stuff to the other side. So it's going to be 3x plus 1 squared equals positive 75. Then we're going to divide by 3 on both sides, leaving us with x plus 1 squared equals 25. And then square root both sides, leaving us with x plus 1 equals positive negative square root of 25 is 5. So that means that x could equal positive 5 minus 1, if you bring that 1 over, or it could equal minus 5 minus 1. So that'll be the first answer could have been 4, the second answer could have been negative 6. Well, our previous statement, the original question said it wanted a negative consecutive integer. Well, this is not a negative number, so the 4 does not work. So that means that our second answer, negative 6, if x is negative 6, then x plus 1, meaning negative 6 plus 1 is negative 5. And then negative 6 plus 2 is negative 4. So our answer is that the 3 consecutive negative integers are negative 6, negative 5, and negative 4. Our last example is example number 4. A defender kicks a soccer ball away from her goal. How far does a soccer ball travel from the goal line if the function that models its trajectory is given by this? Solve by completing the square. Well, first of all, we're trying to find out when we kicked it, and then where it lands, how far it's traveled. So we need to set the height equal to 0. So 0 equals, we're going to start by putting brackets around our first two terms. Then we're going to divide both of these numbers by the negative 0.016. And that gives us negative 0.016 in front of x squared minus 72x. We're going to have to take half this number and square it. So half and then square it will give us positive 1296 minus 1296. We always have to add and subtract that number. And then we still have this minus 15.2. Then we're going to remove this number by multiplying it by negative 0.016. And then so we have x minus 36, because it's always half this number, squared. And then when we bring that negative 1296 and multiply it with negative 0.016, we get positive 20.736. And then minus 15.2. And then put those Q values together to get positive 5.536. And now we're just solving for x. So we're going to bring this guy to the left side now to become negative 5.536. Now we're going to divide both sides by the a value. That gives us 346. Now we're going to have to square root both sides. Don't forget that we're going to have to write positive negative. So we're going to have positive negative 346 equals x minus 36. And we're going to add 36 to both sides. So our two solutions, it doesn't tell us what to round to. So let's round to the nearest hundredth. We're going to find the two solutions. So if we add the two numbers, I didn't have the square root value here, but if I add the two numbers, I'm going to get 54.6, and if I subtract them, so meaning negative 346 plus 36, I should get 17.4. And then finally, because they want the distance that is traveled, the distance between these values, you're going to have to take the bigger value and subtract the smaller value. So your answer is going to be 54.6 minus 17.4, which is equal to 37.2. And it doesn't tell you what units, so we'll just have to leave it like this. So this is, it could be in meters, it could be like, logically, I guess it's in meters, so, but it doesn't tell us, so we'll just leave it like this, 37.2. Okay, so that is lesson 4.3. Again, let me know if you have any questions about this. I hope you guys understood what I did, and have a nice